In February this year, the International Criminal Court, ICC, ruled that it has jurisdiction over serious international crimes committed in the entirety of Palestine, which would include the crimes against humanity of apartheid or persecution. A month later, the ICC announced the opening of a formal investigation into the situation in Palestine. If Israel's policies and practices towards Palestinians continued along the same trajectory, the situation, at least in the West Bank, would become tantamount to apartheid. The Human Rights Watch compared a Jewish citizen of Israel, born in an Israeli settlement, and a Palestinian ID holder, born in a Palestinian village. The fragmentation of the Palestinian population, in part deliberately engineered through Israeli restrictions on movement and residency, furthers the goal of domination and helps obscure the reality of the same Israeli government, repressing the same Palestinian population group to varying degrees in different areas for the benefit of the same Jewish Israeli group. It showed that after being occupied for more than 50 years, Palestinians are still struggling to defend themselves on their land. All that while other countries speak out in defense of Israel. Is the Zionist regime then guilty of apartheid against the indigenous Palestinians?
And there are evidence of discrimination, and the Arabs that are staying within Israel are not treated as equal citizens as the Jews. So you can call it apartheid if you want.
The group of 57 Muslim-majority countries, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, was once again taken to task. And that's for failing to come up with a strong response against the Israelis' brutal attacks on Palestine.
No, I see. I'm sorry, I use the OIC is impotent? Yeah. No, I see. We can say it because it makes us feel good that we condemn Israel. But we know very well that it's not going to make any difference unless we push the main ones to come into the picture.
Tan Sri Razali was very much involved in the United Nations since the 1980s. Some have opined that the veto power claimed by the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council is undemocratic and has led to more conflicts.
The UN cannot make any big changes unless you get the Security Council. In the case of Bosnia, the UN pleaded to Clinton, I think, President Clinton, and Clinton took the steps, even if the Europeans were not willing to say that we will bomb Serbia, and the Serbians knew this was for real, and then they agreed to an arrangement. But the UN must have the big muscle from the United States.
I see.
And this is not happening.
China, which holds the rotating presidency of the Security Council for the month of May, has said that only when the plight of the Palestinians is resolved comprehensively, fairly and permanently can West Asia truly achieve lasting peace and universal security.
If the Chinese passionately 100% believe in getting the Palestinians to be a de facto, de jure state now, the Chinese can put a lot of pressure. But I don't think the politics in China, as politicians in China, as they look at what's happening, they will want to take that kind of step now.
When Israel launched its attacks on the Al-Aqsa compound and on the Al-Aqsa mosque during the holy month of Ramadan, are Palestinians then expected to unconditionally surrender to Israeli aggression? The Palestinian right to self-defense may not be recognized by Israel or the media, but it is a right grounded in international law. In 1982, the UN General Assembly passed a resolution asserting the legitimacy of the struggle of people for independence, territorial integrity, national unity, and liberation from colonial and foreign domination and foreign occupation by all available means, including armed struggle. The resolution refers to the Palestinians 11 times, explicitly describing them as under foreign and colonial domination. For the record, since 2008, the Zionist regime is responsible for the deaths of about 6,000 Palestinians, of whom 1,250 were children. As the main body responsible for protecting vulnerable people around the world from acts of aggression, the UN Security Council will have to act without delay.